Hey everybody, Doug Walker here, and before you ask that Mr. Peanut Butter on my shirt, like, half the time I get, like, comments of people saying, like, what's on this shirt? What's on this shirt? So that's what's on the shirt. Get that out of the way. Okay, over the course of, like, the past couple months, like, over winter, a lot of people have been asking me, what do you think of this movie? What do you think of this movie? And this job keeps me, obviously, very, very busy, but I have seen them. I just haven't had time to record my thoughts on them, and a lot of big ones have come out. I mean, we try to address the really big ones, like, Infinity War and stuff, but, I just haven't had time to record my thoughts on some of these films. Some of them were big, like, Oscar winners and stuff like that, and some of them are getting a lot of attention. So, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go real fast over, like, the 5 or 6 movies that came out kind of over the winter and even the past few weeks that have kind of gotten a lot of attention, and just giving kind of my general thoughts on them. I'll try to work backwards, just sort of like the most recent to like the oldest one on the list here. But yeah, these are movies I have seen. I just didn't have a chance to talk about them, and now I'm going to talk about them real quick. A Quiet Place. This movie is still out, and it's really good. A lot of people are calling it horror. I don't know if I call it that. It's more suspense. It's more thriller. But I mean, there is, there's still monsters trying to get people and stuff like that. So I guess it counts. Most of you know the story. It's about these monsters that go after sound. It's kind of like Tremors, except they're above ground, and it's this family that has to communicate entirely without words or being vocal, and I like films that can really incorporate silence and the quiet, especially if it's supposed to be suspense, and I think that kind of teaches an audience too. It's like, okay, we can be quiet during a movie, and don't get me wrong, I yap during a movie too. I try to be quiet, but sometimes I make a joke, and but when a film is designed to be entirely silent, I don't know. It's something where it kind of like shows a maturity, especially when it's a big hit, and it shows that audiences are ready for a quiet film, and they can get more quiet films. Even the end of Infinity War was kind of quiet, so I like that more of these risks are being taken, especially for a film. This was directed, I think written too, by John Krasinski. Am I saying his name right? But he stars in this too. Good job. I mean, this is kind of a risky type of movie to do in terms of, again, just so much quiet in there. I mean, this is not something that was assured to be a hit. So I'm glad that was. I'm glad that he has sort of this maturity to really... It's just nice to see him do more than this look from The Office. I hate that look. So, and I'm glad going in, actually, I didn't know that he directed it, because I probably would have just been thinking of that look the whole time, like, why isn't he doing that look? But I really enjoyed this film. All the performances are good. It's a good suspense. The only there's some of the little technicals in it, like the details of like, well, wait, that didn't make sound, or they couldn't hear this one, or like the opening immediately, like, if you can't predict what's going to happen in the opening, then, like, I don't know. I'd be shocked if you couldn't, but it's one of those where you're just kind of waiting for it to happen. But after that, it gets really good, and I still don't know why the monsters were entirely CG. Actually, I probably do. It's probably a budget thing, and I get that, especially for, already kind of a risky film, but... man, when they rush or when they run, you can CG them, but when they're just there, when they're just like near a person or getting close, like, there's nothing there. Couldn't they just get a puppet or something? And I don't know. And maybe for the sequel, because I heard they're doing a sequel. But this is a solid film. Definitely go check it out. I Feel Pretty. I have a wife, so I saw this movie. I like Amy Schumer fine. She's kind of hit and miss with me, but when she hits, they're really, really funny. And I didn't think this was that funny. The two big problems with it is that the major one is it's just not written funny. Like, I can't think of one funny line in this. It's kind of a funny idea, and even though a lot of funny people are in this, they're not making this work. And the big thing, though, on top of that, as I said, it's a funny idea, but Amy Schumer is she's an everyday looking person. I think for this idea to work, you need somebody that's an extreme something. Like remember when Chris Farley was dancing with Patrick Swayze? Like that was funny because of his size, and there's another guy who's traditionally good looking and him traditionally not good looking. So seeing them side by side, that's funny. But Amy Schumer is a very average, everyday looking person. So, I don't really get why this was funny. Or go like a different route. Get something like somebody who's like really old or something. Get like Betty White or Kathy Bates. Something people will go, whoa, what? Like that's actually like a big jarring thing if like a person was to go up and do that. That's not something I necessarily want to see, but if that's what you're going for, you're looking for a reaction, which this movie clearly is, and so are the trailers, that at least would be funny. That at least would get a reaction. But Amy Schumer doing it, it's like anyone going up there. It's not like you're going, what? Whoa, that can't happen, so it didn't do much for me. It's not awful by any means, but it's just kind of a bland, forgettable comedy. Blockers. Or should I say chicken cock blocker? They know what they're doing. That's very clever advertising. I thought just for a run-of-the-mill funny comedy, that's exactly what this was. I got several laughs. I thought it was very entertaining. Again, like a couple days after I see it, I don't think about it much, but all the performances are entertaining, and there's definitely one of those things where it's like, you're just seeing this for it to be a comedy, and just kind of check your brain out and stuff like that. But like at the very end, like everybody still kind of comes together and they're like, okay, we're all okay and we're a family. And I'm just like, there'd be a lot more time dedicated to getting over what a lot of these parents do. But I thought it was enjoyable. I definitely got some good laughs out of it. I definitely recommend it. Game night. Exact same thing. I thought it was a funny movie. I thought it had just the right amount of kind of twist, because going in, there's like 2 twists you're gonna get at least going into it. But on top of that, they kind of throw in a few other little surprises. So I like that. The comedy is really funny. All these actors are very, very funny, particularly when they try to act tough in this bar and they try to pretend like they're grabbing a gun and they're like talking macho. And that stuff, if you get a really good comedic actor or actress, that really, really is funny. And there's some surprisingly good kind of violence and gore in it and stuff like that. There's a sick part of me that does like the kind of humor where it's like the more painful it looks, the funnier it is. But this does push it a little bit, but in the best way. So if you're squeamish at all, just know that there is some gore in this. Or, not like heads exploding or anything, but definitely stuff like, like trying to dig a bullet out and stuff. And it's like, but that's part of the fun. So I definitely had a lot of fun during it. Molly's Game. I freaking love this movie. I had no idea really what it was about. I just knew something about poker, but I'm kind of getting more and more into these crime movies that have a very distinct, enjoyable style. And this one does, but it's not to a point where it's like distracting either. It's something where it very naturally kind of tells this story. It gives you an idea of this person's point of view and the personality and everything. And there's just so many interesting twists and turns, and the way they're telling it, which is very clever, is that they tell it after the book came out, and then kind of the court case that came after it, and the arrest, and so forth. So it's very clever. So it's not just a telling of the book, unless like an extended version of the book came out. I don't know. But there's also so many good performances in this. The one that really I enjoyed was Michael Cera as Player X, which I'm pretty sure has been confirmed as Tobey Maguire. And even though Michael Cera doesn't look like Tobey Maguire, if you close your eyes and listen to him, like, it's identical. You totally see him there. And it's just, it's a little funny. It's very dramatic, very well written. I love the way it cuts back and forth between sort of the modern day with the figuring out, talking to the lawyer and the trial and everything, and then cutting back to what really happened, sort of telling the story and figuring out if this person really is honest or not. Did she know what was going on or didn't she? Even though she's the narrator of the story, so that kind of gives you a little bit of a bias. But again, that's what's so smart about it, because you have the lawyer also giving kind of his point of view on it too. So yeah, it sounds like it's truthful. I mean, I never know anymore, but it's one of those things where it's like, it's an interesting story either way, and I greatly enjoyed it. If I had one nitpick, I say that the main actor is playing Molly. She's good. She's not great. I feel like this could have had like kind of a powerhouse performance around it, but then again, maybe that's the idea. Maybe she's supposed to be a little bit more quiet and reserved and to herself. Again, not really knowing if she really did this stuff or not, but I don't know. I feel like even that could be done a little bit more, with a little bit more intensity, but maybe not. I don't know. It's a good performance, don't get me wrong. I feel like this could have been like a really great performance, but maybe that's not what's needed. Maybe that's the idea, is like she did kind of slip, under the radar, and then suddenly people are accusing her of this thing, and because they don't know her, like, they don't know if she could actually do this stuff or not. So, I greatly enjoyed it. It's a fascinating story, but check it out if you haven't yet. Annihilation. This is from the guy that directed Ex Machina, which is also a really great movie. You can definitely tell it's the same person. It has a similar ending / twist-ish. I don't know. It's actually one of those movies I wish ended like maybe 30 seconds earlier. Again, that's nitpicking, but no, this is one of those films where it's like, again, it's really quiet. It really builds up the suspense. All the characters are relatively interesting, and when they come to whatever decisions they make in the film, you know why. The only thing, it's a nitpick, but the only thing that drove me nuts is that, for anyone that doesn't know, it's kind of like Arrival. There's a weird thing, and people have to go in to figure out what the weird thing is and how to explain it, because everyone that's gone in has disappeared or died or got lost, and communication gets taken out and everything. But yeah, okay, so they're sending in this group of people, and there's like a paramedic and a couple other, and there was no military going in until Natalie Portman came in, and it's like, wait, you were gonna send in no military? Which I know they send in a ton of military before, but going in with none is weird, especially when people keep disappearing. So that's, once or twice there's little things like that where I'm kind of like, well, why didn't they do this? Why don't they just have a long cord, tied around them when they go in, and because they get lost immediately when they go in, and it plays with the mind, but it's like, did nobody think of just a long cord that keeps going and going and going? So again, those are nitpicks. The actual film itself has a lot of interesting ideas, kind of unique ideas that play around a lot with past, present, future, and identity, and character as well. I'm not usually a huge Natalie Portman person, but she grew on me on this. Like she was pretty solid. And it's not one of those performances where she has to do a big cry scene or anything like that. Like she just plays it very straight, and it works. And I feel like a lot of the actors in this really do a good job of that. Like they really bring something to it that sometimes can be big, but it's never too big. It's never distractingly big. And there's a goddamn bear in this. See, I shouldn't have said that, because now I'm going to build it up, because everyone that talks about this movie talks about the bear. So I'm probably building it up, but it scared the shit out of me. Like, I don't think I've been that scared since, like, I was a little kid watching Jurassic Park. Like, I was just like, shit! So, yeah, I won't say too much after that, but yeah, it's a good movie. It's good sci-fi. You can definitely kind of see elements they're taking from, but they turned into something unique. They turned into its own thing, and I really, really enjoyed it. Definitely check that one out, because I don't know if it got that much press, so definitely go see it. Shape of Water. So yeah, it's time for me to be a dick again. I didn't like this movie. I'm sorry. I didn't hate it by any means. It's not an awful film at all, but like, the minute this thing starts, I could tell you what every character was gonna do, when they were gonna do it, how they were gonna do it. Well, okay, the fish sex scene, that I couldn't quite predict. That's like maybe the one new thing in this. But yeah, and even that would be okay if, I mean, most people know the story behind it. It's kind of a monster romance film, and it's obviously going against prejudice and stuff like that. There's one prejudiced jerk who's always like, no, we must keep things separated. He's clearly wrong, and he's just there to be the dick. All of that probably would have been okay if the chemistry was better. And I was actually really excited for this chemistry because the woman in this, she can't talk. The fish person can't really talk either. And so they use sign language. But the sign language doesn't go on for very long. They don't communicate much. And she's suddenly like, we got to get him out. We got to get him out there. And it just seems out of nowhere. So everything becomes about the escape. And then after the escape, it becomes about them just wanting to bonk. Like, it's not even... There really was not that much romance, and I feel like for a movie where you're going to make out with a fish person, you need to really buy that romance. You need to buy that chemistry, and they don't. It seems more focused on showing that prejudice is bad, which, cool, great. We haven't seen that yet, but even visually, like Del Toro stuff is just visual, he's a visual marvel. I mean, like, Hellboy 2, I didn't think it was that great a movie, but to look at it was just phenomenal. And even this just kind of felt like his lesser stuff. Okay, the city's dark, cool. The fish guy just sort of looks like the fish guy from Hellboy, I mean, nothing really grabbed me about it. I think the only scene that was interesting, but both visually and I guess with the idea, was the fish sex scene. Which even then wasn't like, I wasn't watching like, whoa, you can't do that, because that's what a lot of people were saying. It's like, no, it's a very visually nicely shot, clever idea, the way they do it, and that's about it. Like I said, by no means hated it. For me, I could predict everything, every emotion, everything that was going to happen, and there wasn't a strong enough chemistry for me. So I know a lot of people love it. Awesome. I mean, like I said, I can't see anything really bad in this film. I mean, don't go screwing fish or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where if you love it, awesome. It's not a bad film to like. I just didn't like it. Tonya. I love it when I see a movie that is based around a time where, like, I was alive and I saw this stuff unfold. So this was really cool to see, and it was funny to see, and it's told in just the right way. This movie is not told really from one point of view. It's kind of all the various stories from all the various people. It even opens up admitting that, this is a very disjointed, several different stories talking about this, that they're not claiming this is 100% true. They're just going off of the confessions of these people, which do not often link up. But they try to go for the, most interesting parts. And there's a lot of interesting parts, and there's a lot of funny parts, and there's a lot of tragic parts. All the performances are just so good. We're watching Margot Robbie, I think is how you say her name. She's great in this, but there's one scene in particular where it's just like, and that's why she got the nomination. It's why she's putting on makeup before she goes out and performs. And it's just one of those where it's like we watched it and we were like, that's the Harley Quinn we wanted to see. Like that in Suicide Squad, that's not her fault at all. She did fine, but it's like, that's the character we wanted to see. Just that performance she gave looking in the mirror, and it's just so great and so uncomfortable. And just the whole movie in general just had this really bizarre kind of feel to it, which I think very much represents these people. And I like a film that has a style that really matches the story it's trying to tell. Like, there's definitely some movies where they just want to, you always hear this, style over substance. What it really has to be is style meets substance. Like they feed into each other. And that's what this movie does. They really, really feed into each other. And the one downside, I don't know if people bring this up, but okay, so they have a professional skater going, doing all this stuff and everything when she's performing. Fair enough. I mean, this is like one of the greatest skaters ever. I mean, so you need a really good skater to do this. But they CG Margot Robbie's head on there. It looks bad. It looks really bad. And I have no idea if that's a thing or not, if people talk about that or they don't, but yeah, it does not look good. That's like the one thing, and it is so distracting. Like, you want to get into the emotion of the scene, but you are just constantly looking at how the lighting on her face does not match the lighting on her body or the rest of the scene. So that was really distracting, but everything else I thought was really, really great, and it sort of captured, I felt like it captured everything about that weird, bizarre period in Olympic history, you know, where suddenly, like, there was... I mean, I don't think there was much Olympic scandal before that. Nobody even thought of ice skating before all this happened, so it's funny that this suddenly threw all this attention on ice skating. I mean, now it's like one of the major things in the Winter Olympics. And it just captured why it was interesting, why it was strange. My favorite line in the whole thing, I think, is in the first 3 minutes where they're talking to a guy from Hard Copy. He says, yeah, we represented sort of a news outlet that all the other news outlets looked down on and then became. What a brilliant line. Like, as soon as that line came, I'm just like, you got me. I love you, movie. This is going to be a great movie. It is a great movie. And like I said, it's not a style over substance film. Like, they really do help each other out, and they feed into each other, and they make a really, really good film. So definitely go check that out, too. Guys, that's about it. Hopefully over the year when I see a movie, I can give my thoughts, on camera or with Rob or whatever, and... I can go into more detail about it rather than just like, rather than just doing nothing, I guess. So, I'll do my best to keep getting reviews out there. I'll try not to do too many of these compilations, and I'll just see you in the future.